The Daily Code Snippet. A review of semantic markup and why it is important. What is semantic markup? HTML tags are generally used to format content. As we described previously, an opening tag, a closing tag, and the contents define an HTML element. The tags tell the browser how to display the content, but they don't always indicate what role the content plays on a page. A good example of this is the div element. With HTML5, semantic elements were introduced to help solve this issue. Prior, to define a header of a page, you would write div opening tag, ID equals header, div closing tag. More on ID later. With semantic HTML5, we now have elements that identify content to both the browser and the developer. Some examples of semantic markup include header, nav, main, section, article, aside, and footer. Why use semantic markup? To a sighted user, it may be easy to identify types of content at a glance, such as a header, footer, and main content. Semantic markup helps identify what role each piece of content plays on a web page to someone using an assistive device. So it makes your web page more accessible. Using semantic markup also helps the indexing of your page by search engines such as Google or Bing by identifying and prioritizing the main content. Pages with correctly applied semantic markup will have an advantage in SEO or search engine optimization. Properly annotated websites lead to a favorable ranking with the algorithms. The section element defines a section in a web page. A section is a thematic grouping of content that is typically combined with a heading. A web page can be divided into sections such as an introduction, content, and contact information. The article element specifies independent, self-contained content. The article should make sense independently and ought to be able to be distributed on its own without the rest of the website. Examples of an article element include a post in a forum, blog, or news article. Another one of the semantic HTML5 elements that may need some clarification is the aside element. The aside element is used to identify the area of a web page whose content is not directly related to the main content. It can be thought of as a sidebar. You may understand an aside to be equivalent to a call-out box that you might see in a print article. Another way of understanding semantic markup is that it is adding more meaning. So we can look at the bold or B element and the strong element to understand the differences between structural and semantic markup. When you apply the B opening tag and the B closing tag, any characters in between will appear bolded. When you are applying the strong element, it is indicating that the content between the strong opening tag and the strong closing tag is important. However, the default result in both cases is that the words will appear bolded. It highlights the words that the viewer should notice more. Similar to the B element and the strong element, when you use the I or italic element, characters that are enclosed between the I opening tag and the I closing tag will appear italicized. However, when you're using the M element, what you are saying is that the information enclosed within the M opening tag and the M closing tag is to be emphasized, but the end result in both cases is that the words will appear italicized. The M element is considered a semantic element. Presented by Designers Learn Code.